So hey guys, this is Paul here from VPI Academy. We are back with another episode of Futurecast. Today with me is Jordan from Glue Network, a layer 1 network, and happy to have you here. So Jordan, tell us a little bit about yourself. Maybe walk me past before you joined the Glue team. Where did you used to work?
Sure. Look, thanks so much for having me, Paul. Really appreciate it. So my journey into Web3 has been quite an adventure. I sort of come from a background in e-commerce and technology. And what really got me into the blockchain space was sort of seeing how decentralization could completely transform industries. I think, the potential to break down barriers, create more secure and accessible systems, both the financial level, but also generally more broader with assets and so on. It just gives individuals greater control over their assets. And that's really what hooked me. And a little bit more around kind of what I do with Glue. So originally I was a seed investor and then moved into a role around operations and business development. I've had a really good chance to deep dive into, how Glue goes about building its systems that aren't just about sort of technology, but it's about really making a genuine impact. And what excites me most is the idea that we're still in the early stages. And I think at an industry level, there's so much untapped potential. And as more and more experienced, business people come into the space, come into the blockchain space, I think we're going to see, lots of new innovation around making blockchain more accessible to everyone, not just the crypto savvy.
Right. How was it transforming into get into the Web3 industry? Because for some people and for most of our audience as well, they are trying to learn more about Web3 to see where can they get in it. You said you were in ecom and then a little bit of a tech background as well. So how easy was it for you to get into Web3?
So like most things, it started off as a hobby. And I had friends who were more engaged with the space earlier on, and they sort of exposed me to, the earlier opportunities around Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on. And that was really the exposure I got. I'm not a developer. I'm not a coder. That's not experience I have, but I certainly have been, I guess, around the ecosystem for a number of years. And so I saw there was probably an opportunity for me to get involved in ways where I bring, traditional structure to a role and to an organization, whilst being completely decentralized is great and novel. It has its own set of challenges when it comes to sort of management, ensuring everyone's aligned and working towards like a common goal, which are things that traditional businesses have had to kind of work through, for many years. And so I think I bring bringing that to the blockchain space has certainly, I guess, paid dividends and created value from the projects I've worked with.
Right. And you did mention that you are now the head of operation and business development at Glue. So what is the most challenging aspect of your role? And you did say that you are bringing the traditional skill set that you have into the Web3. So how did it help you so far managing within the Glue network system?
I think the biggest challenge would be sort of balancing innovation with stability. On one hand, we're building something new and disruptive, and that requires constant evolution. On the other hand, we're obviously managing an ecosystem that needs to be secure, scalable, reliable for everybody to use. So I think taking a step back, whether it's scaling our infrastructure, integrating new technologies or service providers, or ensuring robust security protocols, we need to stay ahead of the curve while making sure that the network remains stable and user friendly. And whilst we've had the alpha and testing it out, we've been sort of managing these different, requirements, and that's been sort of part of what I've been doing, as well as making sure that we've got the right partnerships in place and that we're attracting the right service providers.
Right. So today I want to talk more about what you guys are doing at Glue and maybe a little bit on the topic of how you guys are managing different stakeholders. So we did talk about user experience and some of like other service provider on Glue Hub as well. So walk me through this. So break down for me Glue ecosystem, your technology, and what should we know about it?
Okay, yeah, sure. So Glue is built on the substrate framework, which allows us to create like a highly modular and customizable layer one. This flexibility is key, really, because it enables us to integrate specific use case optimized layer two solutions. These layer twos are designed for a distinct purpose or application, like finance, which would focus more on and have more censorship resistance as opposed to optimized for speed. And we have gaming L2, which doesn't optimize for censorship resistance, but optimizes for speed. So there are trade-offs when you make these sorts of layer twos. And we have an asset transfer L2. And essentially, given the structure that's been built on substrate, we can fine-tune the performance for each. So, I think the market's quite used to seeing, one size fits all approach when it comes to layer twos. Glue's gone about it a little differently, where we ensure that each layer two is optimized for its unique workload, while everything remains secure and interoperable, which is inherited from the layer one. This interconnectedness between the layer one and the layer twos allows for much higher scalability without compromising performance or security.
Right. Walk me through some of the layer two that you have worked with. You said you have L2 that are focusing on finance and then other focusing on gaming. Can you give me some example into that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like I kind of said a bit earlier, right? You've got a finance layer two that focuses on censorship resistance and is less optimized for speed. We've got a gaming focused L2, which is more about in-game transactions, so it needs to be very fast, very scalable, but not necessarily super censorship resistant. And the asset transfer L2 is more optimized for peer-to-peer kind of transactions, whether it's sending an NFT or sending some funds and so on.
Right. What are the example of these L2 ecosystem like, and how did you guys came into partnership with them? So an example of a name of a L2 gaming ecosystem that you guys have worked with, and how did you guys start partnering with them?
So, well, I guess, they probably saw that Glue stood out in a few different ways based on my conversations with them. It is the fact that we have use case layer two models. That effectively allows us to deliver a much better performance for specific, dApps, right? So the specialization is a huge advantage over, say, other general purpose layer ones or layer twos for that matter. I think also our unified token model, it simplifies user experience. So there's no need for users to juggle multiple tokens across different layers. We're just prioritizing security and usability across the entire ecosystem. And we also do that even more through our native multi-sig integration. So essentially ensuring user assets are secure, but also while still being easy to manage. Everything's built to be as user-friendly as possible, whilst also maintaining a very secure network.
Right. And besides, so tell me more about some of the unique selling point of Glue, the Glue layer, because beside of the ease of use and easy to manage and security, how are you comparing it to other layer one and layer two ecosystem? So how is the Glue network more kind of like appealing to your community?
Look, I think at a high level, I think it's the security element. Is a big one, especially as we're trying to, bring not crypto savvy users on chain, right? So security is a big concern, but also usability. So, at the protocol level, the layer one security guarantees into all of the layer twos. So they're all backed by the same robust security architecture. We also use cross-consensus messaging across the layer twos, which essentially ensures secure and efficient communication between those layers without relying on external bridges, which typically introduce vulnerabilities. And then sort of on a more like user-friendly or operational side, that native multi-sig functionality adds a more hands-on additional layer of security for transactions on a specific wallet and or account. We're sort of abstracting away from the wallets terminology and helping people look in and I guess have a feel of a traditional maybe Fidelity experience where they have an account, which is effectively still a wallet, but with a Web2 user-friendly experience.
Right.
I would say these are the things that are probably most unique.
Right. So I do believe that security is one of the main concern of some of the user that are coming into, like said, your Glue Hub. So walk me through how are you guys improving the user experience at your ecosystem, and how are you guys achieving this, and what unique feature that you make it so that people are finding the one of your the ecosystem very easy to use, very friendly, and very secure.
Yeah, sure. So I think at a holistic level, we really focus on simplicity and accessibility. So one of the ways we do this, which I kind of touched on earlier, but abstracting the complexities of blockchain from the user. So we've got a service layer to make it easier for users to interact with different applications or services without needing to necessarily understand the technical details. We have seamless layer 1 and layer 2 interactions, all sort of under and within the Glue Hub experience. That's then combined with the unified token model, which again simplifies, makes it easy to use. Users don't need to switch between tokens or deal with multiple platforms. It's all about sort of reducing friction and making blockchain as easy to use as any other financial or tech product.
And you did highlight that, hey, your philosophy, the vision of Glue is we want to make it friendly so that people that are not tech savvy or that are not like don't do crypto trading all day long, they can still onboard to it. So, or have you guys achieved this vision? What is it like for the community, for you guys right now that you guys are having? What are like, I kind of want to know more about demographic, because you said not tech savvy. So are we talking like people that are, say, just still in Web2, but still able to onboard to use your ecosystem?
Yeah, so our goal is to essentially bridge the gap between the crypto natives and the everyday users. So and that's all. Also including traditional finance professionals down the line. And again, we achieve this through that user-friendly interface, something that feels familiar. If you were logging into your Fidelity platform or whatever, there'd be this feeling of you've got your kind of accounts over here with balances, you might have some debt or whatever, and then you've got investment instruments or ETFs or so on. And the Glue Hub, the alpha's out now, and everyone's encouraged to check it out. But essentially, we want it to feel like a coin market cap and like a Fidelity account kind of merged together. So I think that user-friendly interface really helps everyday users feel more secure. And then once they understand and they try to do a few transactions, they understand and learn about how the native multi-sig feature works, which allows for secure transactions without the complexity of managing multiple wallets. We're also, I think, focusing on education and providing tools that help users feel more confident in the space. For example, let's say for traditional finance professionals, we're planning to offer secure and scalable DeFi solutions that are effectively robust enough to meet institutional standards and regulations while sort of remaining easy to integrate.
Right. You did mention that you also provide educational and tool for people to start learning about your ecosystem. How does that does that work? So are you organizing workshops so that people would have a chance to meet with your team, or how does the system work?
Yeah, there's definitely plans to do sort of webinars in the future. At the moment, there's sort of videos and blog posts and step-by-step instructions around the testnet, which we call the AlphaNet, which is still closed for the moment, but we've still got, I think, just over 1,000 users testing that out at the minute.
Right. Your background is in, like we said before, is in economic and finance, and you did say that you gone into Web3 because you were kind of like interested into the decentralized part of it. So DeFi, how do you making the general user find out the importance of this, and how are you onboarding user onto the Glue network?
So I think my background, just to be clear, is not in economics or finance. I am an investor by myself, but I'm not sort of XPE or anything like that.
All right.
Definitely was more in technology and e-commerce. But back to your sort of questions around sort of, I guess, marketing to these mainstream consumers and these traditional finance professionals. How do we do it? It's all about speaking their language. So, for crypto natives, we offer a range of DeFi tools that allow them to sort of explore the full potential of DeFi that you'd expect. For traditional finance professionals, we focus on providing the same level of security, trust, and reliability they expect, but within a decentralized framework. So that, what does that really mean for them? Well, less fees, higher security. It's still trustless. We also make sure that their onboarding process is super smooth. And that
Mm,
comes back to that sort of educational content, videos,
right.
how to, step-by-step guides, customer service, and support to help them understand the benefits of DeFi, going directly on chain, maintaining custody over their own funds, and not going through a centralized exchange where they're being clipped 1 or 2% every transaction that they make.
Right. And another stakeholder I want to touch up on is the other external service provider that you guys are working with. So what are you guys doing to foster this collaboration with these external service provider? Like what benefit do they give to you, and what kind of like opportunity are you guys giving each other to grow Glue Network as a whole?
Sure. So I guess the service layer, to think about it, is like a third party uh, place, or where a bunch of providers can plug directly into the Glue hub or the Glue ecosystem. So I guess think of it like an app store for blockchain services, but not just blockchain services, services in general, where users can subscribe to services like insurance for their blockchain, activities, customer support again for what they're doing on chain. Are they confused about a component of what they're doing? They don't recognize the transaction, and so on. And then, even more advanced DeFi tools, all within sort of the Glue hub and also the Glue ecosystem. There might be analytics that people want access to from third-party providers, and they can sort of sign up within the Glue platform that gives them access to these advanced trading mechanics and tools. Might be sort of AI powered or whatever, right? And I guess that's sort of for Glue and for the users. For the service providers, we're opening up a new market where they can effectively offer their services to a decentralized user base, and will
Mm,
handle commissions and transactions all on their behalf, and it kind of gets delivered into their allocated wallet. So I guess then by extension, the users, it means they get access to a large range of services that enhances their blockchain experience without even needing to leave the platform. I think if you look back in the days of when the internet was first around, you had a lot of different components where people had to move between different websites and so on, and then we
right.
had sort of a consolidation, where everyone was focused around least amount of clicks as possible, make it consistent, make it user friendly, and then internet became what it is today. I think blockchain is going through a similar experience in that regard, and that's why I'm really excited about what we're doing with Glue.
Uh, kind of interested onto your insight onto this, and maybe what is your outlook, because you did say you are very much excited on what is the next step for your ecosystem and the future of blockchain. So what would you envision, say, the next 5 years of Glue? How would your user is like? What is the user experience and user ground is like? And for external for service provider, how would it even become more optimized and more robust for them to joining in?
Look, I think 5 years is a very, very long time, right? So I think let's talk about the next
Let's
12
say in the
months.
future. Let's say in the future, what is your vision? What is it like? How is it for your user? How is it for other service provider to coming in, interact with the Glue network, and what would be there at the foundational level for them to start using to grow the network even more?
Okay, so I think fundamentally Glue is designed to be open and collaborative. It's still
Right.
fully decentralized. It's still what you'd expect from a typical blockchain, ecosystem. External service providers can easily integrate with our platform and offer their services directly to the users, whether it's customer support, insurance, niche things, and so on. For service providers, or developers, this means that they can tap into a large decentralized user base without needing to build their own infrastructure. And I think that's really, really important, um, because it can save them a lot of their own, funds. They may not even need to raise any money. They can just kind of get building, and then ship an MVP very quickly and very easily.
Mhm.
For users, I think it's all about choice and convenience. They can easily find and subscribe to services that enhance their experience, all within a secure and trusted ecosystem. Those are the two big things, as to why I sort of believe long term Blue will succeed. We get those two things right, we'll get a network effect that will be hard to stop.
Right. uh, looking back at, like, we did talk about your user side and the service provider side. So one of
Mm.
the insight that I gained from my community is a lot of these two category are start to interested into AI and why, how can AI operate within the Web3 ecosystem. So what is your outlook on this trend? Like, do you think it's all hype, or do you think that there's some merits behind it? And maybe you can share more about what is Glue doing with AI basically.
Sure. Look, I think, and for any industry, there's real potential for synergy with AI. It'll do different things for different industries, but specifically for blockchain or Web3, I think AI can bring intelligence and automation to decentralized systems, and I think we've seen products out there that do that already. Um, essentially, making things more efficient and user friendly. AI can be used to optimize blockchain performance, predict market trends through look-back analysis, or even provide personalized recommendations to users. That's something I think we see in the Web2 world, where AI is being used to help recommendation engines just be better at what they're doing by crunching a larger amount of data and then providing, oh, you've bought this, well, you're probably going to want to buy that, and doing that at the right time. At Glue, we're exploring how we can use AI to improve the service layer by being smarter, more responsive for tools that can sort of automatically adapt to user needs. So if someone's engaged with an insurance provider, then perhaps they're also going to be interested in customer support, for example. And I think, stepping back around, broadly, AI, I think, can play a huge role in expanding that service layer for us. By integrating AI, service providers themselves can offer, more sophisticated automated services. We talked about insurance just a minute ago. AI-driven insurance models, they already exist. It's just about applying them to sort of, blockchain Web3 instances. Fraud detection is another big one. I know that, that's quite a common thing now to have AI-powered fraud detection. Or even personalized financial advice, right? Based on your blockchain data. We might be able to sort of look at someone's wallet or account and, work out what type of trader they are, or what type of investments they're interested in. Someone who's chasing meme coins and, plays around with pump fund is going to be different for someone who holds blue chip, currency
Right.
like Bitcoin and so on, right? And that they want two different types of experiences and service providers. So I think, by extension, then segmentation becomes really powerful. The service layer in Glue sort of allows any provider to plug in and offer their specific kinds of services. And I think we'll start to see as and after whenever mainnet launches, I think we'll see, there'll be new market created and generally just better benefits for users who want a more customized experience.
Right. Talking about you did say that Glue Mainnet is launching soon.
I did, yes. We don't have a final date in mind. We're sort of market dependent. I would guess it would be within 2024, but I couldn't put an actual date on it.
Right. Because a lot of, like, our community base are developers and builders on Web3. And kind of like what I want to know more is how can start coming in and kind of like start building. What are some of the idea that you guys are looking at Glue? Because most, like, for my insight, most of what my community is building are with the recent trend is going on to deepen and gamify and socialify. Some of them are building infrastructure for developers too. But kind of like share with me the insight from Glue. What are you guys looking for if there is a chance for developers coming into your ecosystem and kind of like contribute to some idea, their projects, their service?
Yeah, so I think focus wise, anything DeFi related, that'll be our focus in the beginning, in terms of post mainnet launch. And we would definitely, a few conversations I've heard, we'd definitely love to have perps. And if there were people interested in building their own decks or sort of any DeFi related things, but perps are definitely a focus. We'd love to have that. That's not something we'd look to do ourselves. And we, in general, just attracting good and new dexes.
Right. Uh, this year we see a lot of like talk about AI and deepin, but let's talk about DeFi. So And some people say that for this year, maybe for the rest of 2024, we would not hear much about DeFi anymore. But what would you expect would be the next talk of the town for DeFi in the upcoming years?
So I think for me, it's there's a lot to look forward to, right? As you touched on a few things, but I would say I'm most excited about the continued growth of scalable DeFi solutions and how decentralized finance will become more accessible to mainstream users. So no longer will they have to go through, layers of parties, whether they're their own banks, centralized exchanges, or so on. There will just be one or two clicks to be getting funds on chain and being in control of those own funds. I talked to, we interviewed a couple of, traditional users who use centralized exchanges, and almost every one of those people had a negative experience with their Coinbase or similar, where their funds were held in limbo, their KYC took ages, and all this sort of stuff. They wanted to buy a specific coin at a specific time. They couldn't do it by the time they were approved. That opportunity had passed. So I think, just a scalable DeFi onboarding, and then in general, broader DeFi solutions and getting mainstream users on chain. I think also interoperability between different blockchains is going to be quite a big game changer. And also, I think, we talked about it earlier, but I do think AI-powered tools within the Web3 space, there's a lot of potential to make the space more efficient and more user-centric.
What would be the potential that AI can unlock within the DeFi category of Web3?
I think
just what do you think about it?
Yeah, look, I think AI is, can do a lot of different things, but it needs, an amount of data. It needs history. It needs a model. So I think, at first, I think AI being able to help DeFi solutions provide better recommendations to its users, especially if it's about investment products, right? We call it farming and staking, but, at the end of the day, it's investment products. I think AI should be used to kind of help wallets or accounts learn to do things better. And for example, someone might be like, my risk profile, I want it to be medium or stable or whatever. AI could help based on their historical transactions, help educate that wallet or account how to invest better, right? Purely off a look back analysis of their own wallet. For example, if they're over allocating to meme coins or over allocating to, young projects or new projects, you might be like, well, why don't you consider, more stable, longer term blue chips like Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever. So I think better service fundamentally is where I think AI can really help DeFi in the say next 6 to 12 months. I think at a technical level, I'm not a coder, but I do understand there are a lot of really, really good sort of AI co-pilot-ish type products out there can really help speed up smart contract development, help identify bugs before you sort of push code live and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I guess from my perspective, DeFi, the user experience, helping users be and do better with their own funds.
Right. Last question is for a lot of our younger audience. So we are also seeing more from my community, a lot more audience coming from university and people that are new into Web3. Kind of like the question they always ask me is, hey, what kind of like says for DeFi, what is the best way for them to understand DeFi and get into DeFi, especially if they have a tech background and they want to build like a solution about DeFi? What would be the best idea, best way to get into it?
I think still the biggest pain points sit around user experience and accessibility. There's a lot of work to be done to be making the blockchain systems easier to use, especially for non-crypto natives. I think also security and privacy are obviously huge areas where innovation is needed, particularly where we see more complex systems being built on blockchain in general. So it sort of depends on what they like, and because I always think it's really important that if you're going to start doing something new or do your own business or a new career path, make sure it's something you have a passion for. But I think two different large areas would be sort of user experience and accessibility, and then the other would be sort of a security and privacy piece. Those are the two big areas I see where there's going to be large future growth. And if they were to dedicate their time and skills to one of those areas, I think they'd be very well placed to succeed in the future.
Right. Maybe a last question is, can you tell me anything about the upcoming like activity that you guys will do at Glue? You did say we did talk about a little bit about you guys will we have a mainnet launching soon. No confirmed date, but like, is there any expectation for us leading up to that point?
Look, I think, if you've got I think you mentioned you've got a network of developers. I think it would be great if, the best way to get involved, I guess, would be visit our website, learn a bit more, read the white paper, understand it. We're always looking to collaborate with talented developers and, potential new service providers. We've got a range of tools that we can sort of help them integrate into the Glue ecosystem. And reach out to me directly or anyone else in the team, Twitter or an email. There's also a sort of partnership form on the website as well. We're building something big, and we'd love for more people to join us on this journey.
Any support program for the developer if they start joining into your ecosystem?
I think there are different. I mean, so we sort of don't really talk. We don't have any grants. We don't have a program. That's something that we'll explore after sort of mainnet launch. At the moment, it's sort of hands-on support and engagement from the executive team. If it's people considering doing things, we'll help them understand why that's a good idea, or why perhaps there's an alternatively better idea. So I think the help that they'll get at the minute is hands-on support from the executive team and the founders if it's required, and direct and timely feedback on their ideas.
So help them with the build and scale aspect of things. Sounds awesome. I love what you. Okay, so maybe that's it for all my questions. I love what you are sharing. We talk a lot about DeFi. We talk about how Glue is operating with and the experience that you guys are bringing to user, external provider, and also some sharing from your side about developer as well. I would love to see what you guys are doing in futures, especially with your mainnet launching soon. So that's it, guys, for this episode. Thank you so much for Jordan joining us today. Check out for what he's sharing about a lot about DeFi, a lot about Glue, and expecting a lot of upcoming news about Glue network. So that's it for our episode. Thank you, Jordan, for joining us today.